For decades, the architecture of the Internet was defined by the hyperlink. When a user entered a query, the search engine served as an index, generating outward-pointing pathways to thousands of distinct, human-created endpoints. This hyperlink economy operated as a distributed mechanism of accountability. By routing traffic outward, it ensured that the original authors, investigative journalists, scientists, and educators, retained both the economic credit and the reputational visibility for their work. That architecture is currently being dismantled. Search engines are deploying zero-click AI systems that intercept user queries and deliver synthesized answers directly within the search interface. The distributed network collapses inward, replaced by a single monolithic output. The mechanics of this delivery system rely on three specific design choices: in-interface synthesis, default in-situ consumption, and the suppression of visible source-level provenance. You get the answer immediately, without needing to click away or verify the source. For the user, this feels like an upgrade in frictionless convenience. But upstream, creators whose texts and images train these models are displaced from the user's attention. Their work is absorbed, and their identity is erased. This interface pattern structurally dismantles the digital knowledge commons. By cutting off outward traffic and generating its own answers, the platform changes its role. It no longer acts as a passive conduit of information. It operates as an active synthesizer of knowledge. In the philosophy of technology, this positions the platform as a functional epistemic agent. The AI itself lacks consciousness or literal authorship, but through its design choices, the system dictates who is trusted, what information is surfaced, and what counts as credible knowledge. By presenting a single, confident answer by default, the interface pre-configures human reliance. The ranking algorithms and synthesis modules assign credibility instantly, bypassing the user's independent evaluation. Yet the responsibility for these outcomes, the attributable agency, does not belong to the machine. It remains entirely with the corporate executives and product designers who establish the training objectives, the ranking rules, and the revenue policies. Researcher Dr. Selchin Ostrikchan defines this exact phenomenon as zero-click collapse. It is a patterned narrowing of visible authorship, outward navigation, and traceability. Platforms are restructuring the epistemic hierarchy of the Internet to position themselves as the sole immediate authority. To understand this epistemic monopoly, Ostrikchan proposes a three-layer framework illustrating the conceptual architecture of zero-click collapse. The top layer is epistemic infrastructures, encompassing visible platform features, zero-click synthesis, attention capture, and the active suppression of provenance. The specific user interface choice to omit visible above-the-fold source links functions as a structural wall. It successfully traps user attention entirely within the platform's enclosed ecosystem. By compressing diverse, situated perspectives into one seamless output, the infrastructure projects the illusion of a single objective truth, erasing the fact that this knowledge was built through plural human consensus. Capturing user attention in this way centralizes epistemic authority, conditioning the user to view the platform as the only necessary stop for information. The user interface design is never strictly neutral. Enclosing user attention within a zero-click summary is the mandatory first step in erasing independent knowledge creators from the process. That infrastructural enclosure relies entirely on the second layer, epistemic appropriation. The platform's top-level synthesis requires the continuous, unacknowledged mining of the human-authored web for raw material. This systemic extraction targets vulnerable knowledge producers. Precarious local newsrooms and independent STEM educators see their public-facing reporting and tutorials ingested, only to have the AI system regurgitate those exact insights directly to users, guaranteeing those users will never visit the original creator's sites. This dynamic causes two harms. First, testimonial injustice. Suppressing provenance robs the author's earned credibility, reallocating trust to the machine. Second, hermeneutical injustice. Seamlessly synthesized text structurally denies the public the interpretive context required to evaluate the true origins of a claim. This systematic harvesting of human labor to fuel centralized proprietary systems mirrors the logic of data colonialism. Life and knowledge are treated as raw material to be extracted and processed without reciprocity. In the process, highly diverse, marginalized, and localized perspectives are subsumed. They are flattened into homogenized outputs, calibrated specifically to maximize platform retention. The uncredited extraction of training data degrades the core mechanisms by which society evaluates evidence and verifies truth. The bottom layer supporting this entire system is governance. This dictates the opaque design choices and centralized authority that allow zero-click architectures to operate with limited recourse. Platforms maintain what researchers call infrastructural sovereignty. This is the unilateral capacity to dictate moderation protocols, ranking models, and monetization rules in total corporate secrecy. Yet, the majority of professional and legal debate surrounding generative AI fixates almost entirely on whether these models violate intellectual property and copyright law. This focus misses the target. Even if an AI output satisfies every threshold of fair use, avoids direct infringement, and achieves legal compliance, it still generates epistemic harm if it presents that synthesized answer while burying the source lineage. Legal permissibility does not automatically equal normative permissibility. Copyright doctrine exists to protect economic derivation. It is not designed to protect the fair allocation of credibility or to ensure a user can trace the provenance of a fact. Because governance is kept aggressively opaque, these centralized platform choices remain completely shielded from public audit or democratic contestation. Relying exclusively on copyright law to regulate AI infrastructure will fail. The structural threat stems from centralized corporate governance monopolizing the rules of epistemic standing. Zero-click collapse is not a mandatory feature of automation. The harms it produces are the contingent result of specific, reversible design policies. Epistemic justice can be engineered directly back into the system. To counter testimonial injustice, platforms must implement attribution by default, with clear inline link apps to distinct sources. To counter hermeneutical injustice, clicking a citation must open an expandable panel disclosing model confidence and the exact boundaries of the excerpted human text. Finally, to prevent the marginalization of minority voices, platforms must submit to pluralistic sourcing audits. This requires public, enforceable metrics that track the geographic representation, language diversity, and outlet size in the AI's training corpora. Together, these design choices act as redistributive mechanisms. They systematically reintroduce necessary friction and direct traceability back into the search experience. We do not have to abandon the utility of AI synthesis. We can strictly mandate that epistemic justice serves as a baseline requirement for the interface. Platform developers counter that users demand concise answers, and that in low literacy or emergency scenarios, speed and accessibility must take priority over detailed sourcing. While efficiency is a valid technical goal, it is governed by the proportionality principle. Immediate accessibility must be achieved using the least restrictive means possible, ensuring the summary is still anchored by visible human authorship. Relaxing traceability and reducing provenance is justifiable only under strict time-critical constraints. Even in those rare cases, multi-source views must remain accessible within a single click. The current iteration of zero-click delivery fails this proportionality test. It systematically suppresses provenance across the board, explicitly prioritizing corporate platform retention over the public's right to evaluate truth. A digital knowledge commons cannot survive as a closed feedback loop. It requires pluralism, economic reciprocity, and the clear visibility of the human experts doing the actual labor of discovery. The preservation of epistemic justice within digital infrastructure constitutes the fundamental requirement for a functioning, truth-seeking society.